Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here for the first time, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name's Hannah, and on this channel I post a lot of videos about anti-MLM, and a crowd favorite is these horror story videos. These are the personal experiences that people have had with MLM companies that they write out and send to me, and I'm always taking submissions, so if you have your own MLM horror story you would like to have considered for a video, the instructions for how to send that to me are in the description box of every video. This is the 75th video in the MLM horror stories series, but I have over 180 anti-MLM related videos in total. So what I like to do is I link that playlist at the beginning of every video for you if you want to check that out. Or if you're really into these horror story videos in particular, there is a separate playlist on my channel with just the horror stories in it if you'd like. So without further ado today, let's get into these stories. This story says, "Hi Hannah, first of all, a huge congratulations to you and your husband on the birth of your baby girl. I'm so happy to see you back behind the camera after your maternity leave. Thank you. And hope life with your new little one is going well. Postpartum really is a crazy time, isn't it?" That is the understatement of the century. Yes. I just had my third baby in December of 2022, and even though I've been through this 2 times before, I still find myself blindsided by new challenges. But I particularly struggle with how much weight I've gained. It makes me want to cry most days because I feel like I don't recognize myself. It seems like an impossible task to lose weight, especially since I haven't seen the scale moving since giving birth. And I have to eat a lot to maintain breastfeeding. As an aside, for new moms who hear that breastfeeding will magically make the weight fall off, it's not true for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with you if you are one of those who doesn't experience weight loss while breastfeeding. I am one of those people, yes. It is true, your caloric needs are a lot higher when you are breastfeeding, and I also find that it's really hard to shed those pounds just because your appetite is so much bigger, and I feel like you're just holding on to a lot more, whether that be water or fat, I don't really know. All I do know is that I'm not one of the lucky ones that like it all just melts right off after giving birth. So yes, I can relate to that. After I had my second baby in 2021, I actually caved in to a friend who was selling Beachbody workouts, and I bought the membership just so I could try some of the programs. I then went on to completely pee my pants through an entire job 1 workout because it was way too intense and my pelvic floor was shot. That's a story for another day and not why I'm writing. But I have to include that to show how desperate I was to lose weight after having a baby. Despite being very anti-MLM at the time, I was still willing to buy into an MLM program during a vulnerable time in my life. During my most recent pregnancy, I joined a group of other pregnant women who follow a more natural lifestyle and became good friends with many of them. I've come to realize that sadly, the MLMs absolutely run rampant in the more natural-minded communities. I can only imagine that it's because of how many MLMs heavily promote their products as being the natural alternative to everything. One of the ladies in our group is more of an acquaintance to me, but I added her on Facebook since many of our group are still staying in touch. We can call her Christy. I was super inspired by the fact that Christy was not only able to breastfeed her baby for over a year, but during that time she also pumped and donated milk. I know how much work it is to pump all the time, so I really commend her for making that kind of sacrifice. However, I noticed immediately that Christy was posting a lot of before and after photos and writing glowing posts about her amazing lifestyle change, while conveniently leaving out any hint or mention of the program she was doing. I knew it sounded very MLM-y and scoured her page to see if she ever mentioned it outright, and she never did. When I looked closer at the bottom of her before and after posts, there's a disclaimer that mentions an optimal weight 5-in-1 plan. I looked it up, and lo and behold, it's Optavia. This absolutely shocked and disgusted me. We know that Optavia is basically a starvation diet. I probably don't need to list the reasons why this is a horrible program to promote to anyone, much less postpartum moms. Zeke. Okay, this cat, I say this in a lot of videos and I apologize once again. He is being so loud in the background. I think it's because I'm filming this pretty late at night. My husband is in bed and I'm not, and he's like, "What the heck are you doing, woman? Where are you?" I'm at the point now I've just wasted too much time pausing and trying to wait for him to be done. I just have to talk over him. I'm sorry about that. You've done an excellent job of that yourself in many of your videos, but I'll list my 2 main concerns. Number 1, she promotes a natural lifestyle that includes clean, healthy eating. This may make it appear as if Optavia's diet is also natural and healthy. Number 2, and the main reason I wanted to write about this, Christy has been on this diet during her postpartum, and not just while breastfeeding, but also while pumping and donating her extra milk. This may give the false perception that this diet is safe to be on after having a baby. After all, look at how much milk Christy was able to produce while also losing weight on Optavia. It's great that she still somehow managed to be healthy enough to do this, but that doesn't discount the fact that a starvation diet of any kind is detrimental to someone who needs optimal nutrition after giving birth, and could lead new moms down a very dangerous path. This isn't a horror story in the sense of my own personal experience with an MLM, but rather to spread awareness about how deceptive MLM reps can be when promoting their products and programs. It's hard to describe how vulnerable you can feel during postpartum, between having to care for a helpless little stranger that just came out of your body, being bombarded with information about what is right and wrong for your baby's health at doctor's appointments, worrying and second-guessing every decision you make as a new mom, while also feeling like you don't recognize yourself or your new body. It can be insanely easy to feel swayed by posts from other moms who seem to be bouncing back and super healthy and happy with their new babies. And despite your better judgment, it can be really easy to fall victim to the MLM reps' sneaky tactics. If you end up reading this on your channel, I just want to encourage every new mom, including you, Hannah, that you're doing amazing and you are enough for your baby. Sending much love to your little family, including our two favorite noisy kitties. Okay, well, exhibit A of the noisy kitty in the background. And the little note that you leave your story on is coming at a very helpful time for me. Today was horrendous, truly, in newborn land. Well, she's not even a newborn anymore. She's 4 months old. Today really sucked, okay? And I think it's okay to admit that. It was really difficult. For all of the reasons that you just listed right there, there's so much change, so much new stuff going on. It can feel incredibly overwhelming at times, and it's kind of a miracle that I make it to the end of each day. Like, I get in bed, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, we did it. Another day down. We survived. Barely, but we survived. So I really appreciate your encouragement at the end of your story. I think that every new mom really needs to hear that from time to time, so thank you. And I'm also with you in the fact that I'm pretty concerned about what Christy is promoting on social media regarding Optavia and her life postpartum. I have to say up front that I know that every single person is different and how they experience postpartum is different, but one thing I do know for sure is that breastfeeding or pumping requires a lot of energy and it requires a lot of extra calories. I think I read somewhere that every time you pump or you nurse, you're burning about 100 calories. Don't quote me on that. I didn't fact check that. I think I saw it in like an Instagram reel or something. Okay, not the best source of information, but I remember reading that and being like, you know what? I feel like that. I feel like I just burned 100 calories every time I finish, and I pump or nurse like 5-6 times a day. That's 500-600 calories that you're burning. So it makes sense why you're extra hungry. It makes sense why you need those extra calories to replenish all that energy. And I talk time and time again about how Optavia is a starvation diet. The calories are so restrictive. You said that she's advertising the 5-in-1 plan. That's like 800 to 1,000 calories a day that you're consuming on that type of plan. And I mean, depending on how much milk she's producing, if she's able to produce enough for her own baby plus enough to donate, I feel like maybe she's falling within that 800 to 1,000 calories that she's burning on pumping alone each day. Of course, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just kind of speculating. Like, I know how my body feels when I'm doing that all day long. It feels incredibly depleted, and I'm eating way more than I ever have in my entire life. And I cannot even imagine trying to eat 800 to 1,000 calories in a single day and having that be it. And you know what? You're saying that she's posting before and after photos, and it makes perfect sense actually why she would kind of have those results, because one of the big contributors to weight loss is a caloric deficit, meaning that you're consuming a lot less calories than you are eating. And Optavia puts people in a severe caloric deficit. That's why they have such severe transformation photos, is because they're not really eating enough and they're dropping weight at an unhealthy rate. And then you add on breastfeeding on top of that. For some frame of reference, I exercise pretty regularly, and in a 40-minute workout, I typically burn like 200 to 250 calories. So when you think of it in that context, pumping or breastfeeding for a single day is burning like 2, maybe 3 workouts worth of calories, at least for me and my body, that's what it feels like. And if somebody was to recommend to you that you do 3 40-minute workouts in a day and then you only consume 1,000 calories, you would listen to that and be like, that doesn't sound very healthy, that doesn't sound very sustainable, but that's pretty much what she's doing, calorie-wise. So it's not surprising, truly, that she has before and after photos like that to show on social media, because she's probably in the biggest caloric deficit she's ever been in. I just simply cannot even imagine what that feels like. Just going off of my own energy levels, I know that if I was doing this to myself, I would feel extremely depleted, exhausted, irritable, even more than I already do. I already feel all 3 of those things all day long, but being on a plan like that would just make it so much worse, I feel like. So thank you for bringing this story to light and for showing that just because someone has a transformation or they're saying that what they're doing is healthy or natural, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that are not healthy habits that should not be promoted. And then to wrap up your story, you did include a little PS at the end. It says, PS, since we're talking about Optavia, I wanted to commend you on your courage to try some of the fuelings in that video you made, especially while being pregnant. I had severe aversions during all of my pregnancies, and I know you mentioned being pretty sick yourself during the early stages of your pregnancy, so I honestly don't know how you managed to get through filming that video and eating those things. I was also pregnant at the time, and just watching you eat them grossed me out at times. That chili, OMG, ew, God bless you for taking one for the team. Yeah, I did film a video of me taste testing the Optavia fuelings, and it was pretty nasty. I also had some food aversions and some severe nausea in the first trimester. I was out of that phase by the time I filmed that video, but I remember there was like what was it called? A tropical fruit smoothie, I think was the title of it. I tried that smoothie towards the beginning of filming that video. I think it was one of the first ones I taste tested, and I was burping that thing for the rest of the day. It was pretty awful, but I'm happy to take one for the team. I think that was a very entertaining video. And more importantly, there was a lot of discussion in that video about the portion sizes, about the macros, and probably most importantly, how terrible everything tasted and how unenjoyable it was to eat that way. It was a pretty rough one to film, but I think the video came out well, and it helped to explain a lot of the problematic parts of Optavia, so I was happy to do it. Thank you for sending in this story. This story says, Hi Hannah, I recently discovered your channel and I'm hooked on all the anti-MLM content you produce. Super entertaining and educational. I don't have a horror story per se, but an entertaining story nonetheless. When I was in college, I worked part-time in a restaurant that was inside a Hyatt hotel. Every morning we had a meeting about the activities going on for that day, like weddings, convention meetings, and other events. It was mentioned that we have a 300-person meeting going on in the hotel for 3 days. This group did not order any catering. So all 300 people would be on their own for meals. At lunchtime, we got swamped by the meeting goers. Being a hotel, restaurant prices are high, so a $20 burger was out of the question for most of them. Instead, they filled up on the complimentary breadsticks and demanded extra lemons and packets of sugar so that they could make their own lemonade at the table. That is very creative. I've never heard of someone doing something like that before, but that's one way to go about having lemonade, I guess. Needless to say, it was a total mess. However, the icing on the cake was once lunch was over, about 70% of the people left no tip for any of the staff. Instead, most of us all received an Amway business card, and it was written on the back of the check, quote, "Call me if you want to make real money." We were all pissed to say the least. As a server, a majority of your income is from gratuities. I also found it very funny that I need to call them if I want to make real money, yet where was their real money for a tip? That's a great point. It sounds like this is some kind of an Amway convention or something. And what is Amway? It's a business opportunity. It's a way for you to make a lot of money really easily, right? That's kind of the dream they're selling. So it's really, really ironic that they're saying, if you want to make some real money, give me a call about my Amway business opportunity. Yet it sounds like most of them didn't even leave a tip for the wait staff, and most of them didn't really order food even. If they're kind of filling up on the free things like the breadsticks and the water. I don't want to be judgy about how much people spend at a restaurant, but at the same time in this situation, I kind of have to be judgy. I kind of want to be judgy about it because these people are supposed to be with Amway. They're supposed to be wealthy, aren't they? They're supposed to be business owners. But yet it kind of feels like their spending habits aren't really reflective of making good money. It does kind of speak volumes that it seems like the majority of people at this Amway event were either unable or unwilling to pay for lunch or leave a reasonable tip. And that's not the kind of behavior you would expect from somebody who's making a comfortable living from the Amway business opportunity. So that right there kind of tells you everything you need to know, in my opinion, that of the total people in Amway, very, very few of them are making good money, it seems. I mean, we know that to be true based on income disclosures and stuff, but it's also reflected in their behavior kind of, which is very interesting. Being a bit of a rabble-rouser, I gathered the entire waitstaff and we organized a protest. Our demand was a 15% auto gratuity that we could charge the members of Amway. If management did not agree to this, we would all take our 1-hour break during the group lunch hour. Management, of course, disregarded this, and on the second day, the entire waitstaff walked out. I have to admit, it was fun seeing the restaurant manager, supervisor, and even the hotel general manager run food and bus tables. Management crumbled after 30 minutes and said that we can add a 20% auto gratuity for the remainder of the time Amway was in the hotel. A bit of a horror story, but we bested hotel management and Amway. Pet Zeke for me and keep up the great work. I have to say, I kinda love it. I do. I kinda love it. Especially considering that it is very normal for set gratuities to be included on parties of a certain size or larger. I feel like the most common you'll see is like for parties of 8 or larger, 10 or larger, a 20% gratuity is included in the tab. That is pretty common. That's pretty typical at restaurants that I've been to at least. And so truly, I feel like that's a reasonable ask when you're having a hotel restaurant being overrun with Amway reps at the same exact time when they're on their lunch break. I don't know how big this restaurant is, obviously, but what I'm imagining is, I don't know, 15, 20 tables maybe full of people all at the same exact time. That's really overwhelming. And even though they're not all at the same table, I feel like they could be considered to be all a part of the same party. Therefore, having a gratuity included would be reasonable. So I can't say I blame you for asking for that, for being like, look, this first day happened. It was pretty chaotic. You learned that lesson and you're like, hey, okay, going forward, I think that this should be expected, that we should have an included gratuity. I would hope that management would agree to that upon the first ask, and it sucks for them that they had to go 30 minutes of struggling before they finally gave into it. But in the end, I'm glad that they did give in, because that seems like a fair compromise. You're right, this wasn't like a crazy horrific story or anything, but I really do appreciate these lighthearted stories from time to time, so thanks for this one. This story says, "Hi Hannah, to start this story, I need to let you know that I have been strictly watching anti-MLM content for over a month. I'm so fascinated by different types of scams and cult-like groups, so I've been stuck in this loop of watching every anti-MLM video I could find. With this, I also need constant stimulation of something happening in the background, so whenever I'm doing anything, I would just go on YouTube and start watching either you or Isabella Lanter. I've never thought I would see an MLM hun in the wild, but oh boy, was I in for a shock. Around mid-February of this year, I went to visit my boyfriend at his college. His college is known nationwide for it is a highly recommended business school. My boyfriend's dorm complex has a shared bathroom system, male and female, for the whole hall. One night I was in the bathroom washing my face. While I was washing my face, I started to watch your MLM deep dive into Mon 8. The volume was pretty loud since I wanted to hear it over the faucet, so anyone who was by the door was able to hear this video playing. Mid-skincare routine, this girl who looks like a second, third year in college comes to the faucet right next to mine and starts washing her hands. Now, there were about 5 other faucets that she could have used, but she chose the one next to mine. After about a minute of her standing there washing her hands as the video is still playing, she says, "Oh my God, those videos are so fake." I was quite taken aback as I looked at her confused. She then goes on to explain how she is a Mon 8 hun and how it has only helped her with, quote, extra income and amazing hair. She then goes on to explain how watching people like you, anti-MLM, only makes my heart black from all the hate. Wait a minute, hold on. I am the subject of an MLM horror story. This has never happened before in any of my videos. It only took us 75 5 horror story videos to get to this point. It's kind of like horror story inception a little bit. I make the anti-MLM videos, you watch the anti-MLM videos, that gets you into a sticky situation with an MLM hunt in the wild, which makes for content for more anti-MLM videos. The circle of life, I guess. I'm only a confrontational person when it's about someone else's situation. Being in the bathroom with this hun next to me put me in shock. I have over 100 hours of anti-MLM videos under my belt and I couldn't say anything. I was dumbfounded. She took my silence as a way to pitch Monate. However, before she did this, she reached her arm out to grab my phone and turn off the video. How dare she turn off my video? I can't blame her though. Obviously, they don't want you to hear that kind of information. My Monate deep dive video is not very favorable for the company, so clearly if someone's trying to sell those products, they don't want you to listen to the video. It's a perfect example of information control, like I always talk about. Turn off the video so you don't hear the anti-MLM perspective, the bad side of the story, so that you can listen to me in my Monate pitch instead. Wild that this happened to you in real time. I finally said something like, "Can you not touch my stuff?" And she goes on to tell me how she saved me from the hatred and jealousy this world has. Oh yes, she saved you from me and my bitter heart and my hatred and my jealousy. Okay. She then says eagerly, "Let me go grab my products. I'm sure you'll love them and realize those videos are all fake." She starts to walk out of the bathroom to, I assume, grab her Monate products, but before she came back, I rushed to my boyfriend's dorm room and finished my skincare routine there. My boyfriend is well aware of the anti-MLM obsession I have going on, so when I started to tell him what just happened, he assumed that I told her off and said something useful. When I told him that I couldn't say anything, we just laughed it off and went about our night. I haven't seen her since my boyfriend and I are doing long distance, so I don't go to his dorm room often, and now when I wash my face, I do it around 2 a.m. I apologize for this story being all over the place and for any mistakes. I hope you have a great day. This story made my day a whole lot greater, let me tell ya. I have never before been told that someone ran into an MLM rep in the wild while watching one of my videos and that was sort of the subject of their confrontation, okay? I'm sorry about that. That's no fun. And honestly, this is my serious, true opinion right here. I think that if I were to run into somebody in the wild who started sparking up some kind of debate with me about MLMs, I would probably freeze too. I'm not kidding about that. I do not like confrontation. I do feel like I know my stuff. I do feel like I could have an intelligent, respectful conversation with somebody about MLMs. However, if someone comes at me when I'm off guard and I'm just washing my face, I'm in my boyfriend's dorm, I'm just trying to zone out and watch a YouTube video, and someone comes at me like that, I don't know what I would do. Truly, I don't. I feel like that fight or flight response would kick in and I would probably just freeze because the discomfort is overtaking you in that moment. You're like so caught off guard, so uncomfortable. Someone's acting like they want to debate you at a time when you are not ready to debate anything. You're just trying to chill out and get ready to wind down for the evening. So I don't blame you in the slightest for reacting that way. I think honestly, if I was put in that situation, there's a really good chance I would react that way too. And then I would go back to the dorm room and I would kick myself for hours on end about all the things I could have, should have, wanted to say. Classic MLM hun behavior though, to get all defensive about it and to want to try and convert you to the other side and make you a believer of their products and stuff. Unsurprising that she put you in a very awkward situation. I'm sorry that happened to you, but thanks for writing in to let me know. I think this is pretty entertaining. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I actually just recently found your channel and I've been binge watching these horror stories. While listening to a story about the Kirby vacuum cleaner salespeople, it occurred to me this sort of happened to me too. Although I will admit I don't remember if it was Kirby or not. This actually happened about 20 years ago. I had only been living in my current state for about 6 months as I had just graduated college and followed my parents down here when my dad's job transferred him. I had stayed behind to finish school. My parents had purchased a new home in a brand new housing development and we were in the process of moving in, as were literally all of the neighbors. The development was so new that the houses were still being actively built and no one was fully moved in yet. I was at the new home alone, waiting on movers and some other workers, while my parents were at the house with those movers who were gathering their furniture to move to the new house. So inside the house, there was almost nothing. I had literally sat on the kitchen floor to eat lunch. There was a knock on the door and I got up to answer it, not thinking anything of it, since I was waiting on various workers and the moving company. I swung open the door and there was a man standing there holding a vacuum and a clipboard. He immediately goes into his sales pitch and requested entrance into the home, at which point I told him I was not the homeowner and I could not help him. Thinking it was over, I went to close the door. He promptly stuck his foot in the doorway so it wouldn't close. I stared at him for this, but without hesitation, he shoved the door back open and walked into the house. What is wrong with Kirby salespeople barging into people's homes uninvited? I cannot tell you how many times people have written me stories exactly like this, even down to the detail of putting their foot in the door. So inappropriate, unacceptable. Do not do that to people. This is people's homes. Stop putting your foot in the door trying to gain access to it when you're clearly not welcome. It makes me feel like this is something Kirby trains them to do or something. It is so bizarre and not natural. I stood there, too stunned to react. As he walked down the hallway, he entered the living room, the first of only 2 rooms on the first floor with carpet. The other one was the master bedroom, which had no furniture either. I glanced around outside to see if anyone else was around. I couldn't see anyone, nor did I see any vehicles, which was extremely strange. Was this guy just walking around the neighborhood with this vacuum? I turn back and he's standing in the living room staring at me. "Are you done?" he asks. I asked him to leave, stating again that the homeowner was not there and I was working a minimum wage job, so I couldn't afford to buy a vacuum. He ignored me and began his pitch, vacuuming this carpet that doesn't even need vacuuming yet, and is headed for a lot of foot traffic very soon. Yeah, wait, it's a brand new house. You haven't even moved in yet. He obviously knows that. There's no furniture in the place. That's not going to be a very effective sales demonstration if you're vacuuming a brand new carpet that has not even been touched yet. So literally, what's the point in that? If you can't even show how effective the vacuum is being in your demonstration, why are you doing the demonstration? That's bizarre. I asked him to leave about 6 times and he just ignored me. I was 23 and had no idea what was going on or what to do. I couldn't figure out if this was a failed home invasion or what. Failed because he could see the entire house from the living room, and it probably dawned on him that there was absolutely nothing in the house. It was completely vacant. I was absolutely terrified because I had never in my life experienced a door-to-door salesman before and I didn't know what was happening. And he had to have seen how tense and scared I was. He finally finished his pitch and says, "So are you ready to buy?" No, I told you 6 times. I'm not the homeowner, and as a fresh college graduate with a minimum wage job, I can't afford to buy a vacuum cleaner. He looks at me, his entire face changing like he's mad. "Why did you let me go through all of that?" he said. "I told you to leave 6 times, my dude." He continues to stand there staring at me, then says, "Hold on, I need to make a call," and he pulls out his cell phone. "You can make that call from outside. I've asked you to leave now 8 times. If you do not exit right now, I'm calling the police." He did leave at this point and then stood in the driveway on his phone. I called the non-emergency line for the police department to ask for an officer and was told that I was the 3rd person in about an hour to call from the neighborhood. He had been working his way through the development and had forced his way into a number of homes before mine, some more moved into and some less. Thankfully, they sent an officer before he reached the next house that had someone inside. He was not arrested, but he was escorted out of the neighborhood. I found out later that so many complaints had been made to the HOA about this one particular guy, not the cops, everyone called the developer for some reason, that the developers put up huge no soliciting signs at the entrances to the development and made some sort of deal with the local cops. Kids can't even sell Girl Scout cookies in our neighborhood, all because of this one guy. Sadly, it doesn't stop the soccer moms from doing their MLM parties, but that's a story for another day. Nothing will ever beat the scary vacuum cleaner guy forcing his way into homes. I wish I could say I was surprised, but this kind of seems like typical Kirby vacuum salesperson behavior. which is terrifying that they're so persistent and pushy. They're clearly taught to cross that boundary, I feel like. I've heard too many similar stories now for it to be a coincidence. This has to be something that they're trained to do for whatever reason. I personally don't feel like that's an effective strategy because that would put me on guard more than if I had just said no at the door and shut the door. If you force your way into my home without being invited, that's not going to make me feel very receptive to whatever you're selling. So why is that happening? Why are they training on that? I'm assuming. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If a Kirby vacuum salesperson comes to your door, be firm, be blunt, be direct, shut the door in their face if you have to. Do not let them in because they will not leave. That's another thing that's been reported to me on more than one occasion is that once they do get into your home, it's really hard to get them out. Easier said than done, I know that, but be assertive because it seems like Kirby vacuum people don't want to take no for an answer. And you might have to be a little more assertive than you would be with another door-to-door salesperson. I'm glad that by the time you called the police, he had already been reported several other times and that it wasn't just an isolated experience with you. Not that I wanted this to happen to everyone in the neighborhood, obviously, but it's showing that pattern of behavior and it's not just an isolated incident where he's being really aggressive towards you specifically. That's just kind of his strategy to everybody, which is not good, but hopefully that made it feel a little less threatening in that moment. Like, okay, he's not coming for me specifically. This is just what he's trying to do to sell some vacuums, I guess. And I'm also very happy that the police seem to take it seriously, that the development seem to take it seriously, even if that requires a no soliciting policy for the whole neighborhood now. And the last thing I'll note for your story is that way at the beginning you said that you don't remember if it was Kirby or not because it was so long ago. I feel confident saying that it probably was. This kind of behavior absolutely checks out for a Kirby salesperson. Moral of the story, if a Kirby salesperson comes to your door, you have my permission to slam the door in their face and lock it behind you, and hopefully they move their foot before it gets crunched. This one says, "Hi Hannah, I love your videos and congrats on your new baby. Please feel free to share my name. Before I begin, a little about me for context. I've been working as a professional makeup artist for over 25 years with an emphasis on teaching women how to purchase and apply makeup using very little time, effort, and money. I'm a product expert and I give my clients personalized shopping carts with their lifestyles and budgets in mind. That being said, my clients know me as a very honest small business owner with no anterior motive to sell products that benefit my pocket. I offer these makeup services privately and for group workshops. Being a makeup artist, I have been an easy target for MLM pitches for years. I was inundated with Huns friend requesting me and filling up my inbox with the perfect opportunity for me. Consequently, I had to craft a blanket response with a polite no thank you, aka buzz off. That has been sent to reps from Rodan & Fields, Beauty Counter, Unique, Mary Kay, Avon, Herbalife, Natura, and Forever Living. And those are just the beauty brands that have hit me up. About a decade ago, I inadvertently let an Arbonne rep convince me to meet her for lunch. Oops, let's call her Karen. Anyway, since I was already there, I stopped her pitch with one of my own. I told her firmly that I'm not interested in signing up to be a rep or even a customer at this point. However, I was willing to take a look at the Arbonne makeup line and offer my opinion and maybe barter for some free product. All the while meeting Karen's downline who could potentially become makeup clients of mine. She liked this idea, and after introducing me to the subpar makeup line, I agreed to be a guest at one of her parties. This turned into me training her customers and downline how to apply and sell the makeup since the reps had zero confidence in this area. Don't you just love how these people have zero training in anything that they're selling? That is such a good point. The thing about MLMs is that anybody with a beating heart can join. You don't have to have any kind of background knowledge on the product that you're going to be selling. I feel like when the opportunity is being pitched to people, that's pitched as a pro, like, hey, you can come and do this. Anyone is welcome. No experience needed. But I've always seen that as a massive con because presumably if you're going to be recommending these MLM products to a variety of different customers with a variety of different concerns or needs, then it would probably be a good idea if you knew what you were talking about and if you were qualified to be giving recommendations. But in the case of Arbonne, like, it's just not really something that they train on. There's not really anybody qualified enough to be able to give these kinds of trainings on makeup application and makeup recommendations. I mean, Arbonne sells all kinds of things. They sell skincare, they sell hair care, they sell supplements. and they sell makeup. So it's just like one little piece of their product range. And we just can't be expecting everybody to know everything about all of these products all the time. That would be ideal, but Arbonne doesn't really provide trainings like that. So I guess that makes sense that the Arbonne reps at this party didn't really have the background knowledge to provide that kind of information to the customer, so they had you do it because you're a professional makeup artist. But just remember that literally anybody can sign up to be in an MLM, and what that usually means is that they're not qualified to be recommending you the products that they're selling you. After attending a few parties and offering trips to a few dozen ladies, I didn't get any new clients, and I earned just a few bags of powder, drinks, and skincare I was never going to use. I politely declined the next few parties, but I was still on their email list. After I decided to no longer attend parties, they started using my verbiage for the workshops and taking the credit as, quote, application tips exclusive to Arbonne. I told Karen that I didn't appreciate her taking my tips as her own, and she promptly unfriended me and removed me from the email list. While I felt manipulated and taken advantage of for a while, I ultimately felt lucky that I only invested my time and not any money during my brief experience with Arbonne. Thanks for reading and maybe sharing. I really appreciate all the work you do to fight the good fight against pyramid schemes. All my best, Meredith at Meredith Makeup. That is super not cool that they're taking the words that you were saying and the verbiage you used and the tips you gave and passing it off as their own, quote, exclusive to Arbonne. That's so messed up. And you know she has a guilty conscience because you called her out on it and she just unfriended you and removed you from the email list. I'm really sorry that happened to you, but yeah, like you said, I'm glad that you didn't invest too much time and no money into Arbonne. But yeah, that was a big yikes on her part. Thank you for sending in this story. And with that, my friends, is all the stories I have for you for this MLM Horror Stories video. I'm looking back at the stories we had today, and a lot of them were very lighthearted and kind of funny, which is much appreciated after the last Horror Stories video I did. That one was really heavy. It got to me. It messed with my emotions. I got really emotional in a way I wasn't expecting to. And for that reason, I'm very, very happy to have some more lighthearted stories today. Thank you for that. And another reminder, if you have your own MLM horror story you want to send in, the instructions for how to do that are down below. It can be something tragic, it can be something shocking, it can be something amusing, anything goes. So if you've been thinking about sending a story my way, please do. I would love to read it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.